Good afternoon. It's Sunday, June 21st, the longest day of the year. I'm Ariel O'Sullivan, and this is IBA News broadcasting from Jerusalem. We open with a terror attack this morning in Jerusalem. A border police officer in his 20s was critically wounded after he was stabbed in his neck and upper body by a knife-wielding Palestinian near the Damascus Gate in the Old City. Before he collapsed, the officer managed to fire at the assailant as he tried to escape. Paramedics evacuated the officer to the Sharet Tzedek hospital, where he is fighting for his life. The suspect, a Palestinian resident of the West Bank, whose name has not yet been released, was taken in serious condition to the Hadassah En-Kerem hospital for treatment. Police sealed off the area after the attack and deployed reinforcements across the capital. Speaking with reporters at the site, Jerusalem Mayor Nir Barkat urged people to continue visiting the capital and strengthen it. Jerusalem Police Chief Chico Edry said that the officer acted heroically and that in such incidents the assailants should be shot dead on the spot.
The Israeli police responded to a terrorist attack, a stabbing incident that took place here at Damascus Gate at 10:36. Emergency units were called into the scene. A border policeman was stabbed in the neck and taken to Sharet Tzedek hospital in serious to critical condition. He's receiving medical treatment right now. The terrorist himself, a 20-year-old Palestinian, was shot.
Today's incident was the second terrorist attack in the past few days. Searches continue for the terrorist who killed 25-year-old Danny Gonen and moderately wounded his friend Nathaniel Haddad in a shooting outside the West Bank settlement of Dolev on Friday afternoon. Gonen was laid to rest last night in his hometown of Lod. An estimated 1,000 people, including Agriculture Minister Uri Ariel and Deputy Foreign Minister Tzipi Hotovely, attended the funeral. His family eulogized Gonen, saying he was an exceptional person who loved and did everything for his country. It is unbelievable that he was shot in cold blood while he was leisurely taking a hike in the land of Israel. He is so loved. Gonen, the eldest of 5 children, was studying electrical engineering and was murdered by a Palestinian terrorist just as he and his friend were wrapping up a visit to the En Buvin string in Binyamin region. According to Haddad, the surviving victim, the assailants waved him down and asked them for help before he shot them at point-blank range and fled the scene. Minister Ariel promised to perpetuate Gonen's memory by acting to have the En Buvin spring next to which the murder took place renamed En Dani and turn the spring into a tourist site. A terror faction named for the 2 terrorists who kidnapped and murdered the 3 Israeli teenagers last year and is affiliated with Hamas has claimed responsibility for the attack, although security sources have yet to confirm the claim and have not ruled out the possibility that it was a lone attacker who acted on his own. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu warned that the relative quiet that preceded Friday's terror attack shouldn't fool anyone, and he vowed to find the terrorist murderers responsible for the shooting. And ahead of his meeting later today with French Foreign Minister Laurent Fabius, Netanyahu fiercely rejected any international proposals meant to bring about a solution to the conflict with the Palestinians. Here with all the latest is IBA's political correspondent, Eli Wogelenter.
Prime Minister Netanyahu opened his weekly cabinet meeting today by vowing to find the terrorist murderers responsible for the shooting attack Friday, which killed 25-year-old Danny Gonen. Speaking at the same time as this morning's terrorist attack was taking place, Netanyahu said right now security forces are working diligently to find the murderer and to bring him to justice, to punish him with the utmost severity. And he told the ministers that the relative quiet in Judea and Samaria should not mislead anyone. There are always attempted attacks. Unfortunately, some are successful. The reason that most of them usually don't succeed is very hard work from the IDF and the Shin Bet, along with others, on behalf of the State of Israel. Netanyahu then linked the attacks to an upcoming UN Security Council initiative being proposed by France for setting the borders of a future Palestinian state and a timeline for negotiations. The way to reach an agreement is only through negotiations, and we will fiercely reject attempts to impose international diktats, he told his cabinet ministers. International proposals suggested to us, in essence what they are trying to force upon us, have no true consideration for the security needs of Israelis or other national interests of ours. They are trying to push us into borders which are indefensible while completely ignoring what will be on the other side of the border. Netanyahu added that such a solution would ignite another war and vowed that we will not let that happen. The Prime Minister's remarks were made ahead of his meeting this evening with French Foreign Minister Laurent Fabius, who is in the region to sound out leaders about the planned Security Council resolution that aims to restart peace talks. Fabius arrived here after a meeting in Jordan this morning, and who at this hour is finishing up a meeting in Ramallah with Palestinian Authority officials. Yesterday he met in Cairo with Egyptian President Abdel al-Sisi. Fabius said he proposed to Sisi the French vision for peace between Israel and the Palestinians, but noted that the idea is not for us to make peace, but push the parties to make that peace possible. France has so far focused with Arab states on a possible UN Security Council resolution that would set negotiating parameters and establish a time period, possibly 18 months, to complete talks. He warned that continued Israeli construction in Judea and Samaria poses a threat to a final deal between Israel and the Palestinian Authority, and he warned that a stalemate in diplomacy risks setting the conflict ablaze. Netanyahu said France's UN proposal do not really refer to Israel's security needs. They are trying to push us to indefensible borders while completely ignoring what will be on the other side of the border. We are unfortunately experiencing the results of this approach from the Gaza Strip and Lebanon. We will forcefully reject any attempt to impose on us international dictates, both for our security and for the sake of peace. Meanwhile, Netanyahu had harsh words for his own ministers and even walked out of his own cabinet meeting this morning to protest his ministerial colleagues ducking out to take phone calls or grab snacks at the canteen. Netanyahu got up and walked out of the room at the beginning and only came back when everyone was seated and ready to work. Aryeh?
Thanks for that report, Ellie. Reports from Lebanon say that Israel carried out an airstrike in the eastern part of that country this morning. According to Hezbollah's Al-Manar television, the air raid targeted and destroyed a drone which had crashed yesterday in the mountains outside the Sabine in the western Bekaa region. Images were published in the Lebanese media purporting to show the remains of the drone that was targeted, including what looked like to be wings and twisted pieces of metal. Lebanese security sources said the drone had been bombed before it could be collected by Hezbollah. The IDF spokesman refused to comment on the report. And in the Jordan Valley, 7 soldiers were lightly injured this morning when their armored personnel carrier overturned during a military exercise. The soldiers were evacuated to hospital for tests, and all were said to have been suffering only light injuries. The IDF said it was investigating the circumstances of the accident. Culture Minister Miri Regev met over the weekend with actor Norman Issa, whose Jaffa theater she had threatened to defund over his statement that he would not perform in a Jewish settlement. Issa has since agreed to perform in the West Bank, prompting Regev to announce that she would not cut his El Mina theater's state's funding. Both Regev and Issa said their talk was positive. The meeting came amid an ongoing firestorm over Regev's threat to withdraw subsidies from cultural institutions and productions that she claims defame the state. The two met in Regev's office in Tel Aviv, with the minister saying the get-together was good and significant. Regev praised the El Mina Theater, saying that their coexistence is the order of the hour, and emphasized that she had no intention of hurting Issa or his theater. Regev emphasized that for her, the meeting was the end of the affair. Issa called Regev a warm woman and said the two found common ground. The actor said that the talk that they had was an antithesis of all the media brouhaha of the recent days, and is proof that through dialogue one can change the world. Turning to the ongoing parents' protest against the overcrowding in classrooms, and studies in many elementary schools in the central region of Tel Aviv, Ramat Gan, and Givatayim were disrupted today for several hours, and pupils were instructed to show up for class only at 10 a.m. Known as the Sardine Protest, the Forum of Regional Parents Unions began the fight against overcrowded classrooms last month, demanding that the number of students per classroom not exceed 32 children. Parents are calling on the Education Ministry to limit the number of pupils beginning in the first grade already at the start of the upcoming school year in September. Similar sanctions are slated for tomorrow. And the junior staff at the Hebrew University also launched an open-ended strike today to protest a series of planned layoffs in the institution's ever-shrinking humanities department. The strike is being held across all of the university's campuses and will include the final week of this spring semester. Chairman of the Organization of Teachers and Researchers at Hebrew University said the strike will continue until a comprehensive plan to save the department is presented. And he stressed that the cutback on the backs of junior faculty members are a direct blow to their students. Former Minister and IDF Chief of General Staff Shaul Mufaz landed safely in London and swiftly departed the airport in his embassy vehicle. This came after officials initially feared that Mufaz would face possible arrest upon arrival after all efforts to secure him diplomatic immunity failed due to his current civilian status. UK lawyers representing pro-Palestinian groups have repeatedly taken advantage of legal loopholes and sought to have Israeli officials visiting the country arrested for allegedly breaching the international laws under terms of universal jurisdiction. The Ministerial Committee for Legislation convened today to discuss a proposed Yesh Atid bill which would prohibit anyone convicted of crime involving moral turpitude from ever running for the Knesset or holding an executive, government, or municipal position. Under the current law, people with a criminal conviction released from jail have a 7-year waiting period before they can run for political office. The newly appointed Knesset Ethics Committee is also preparing to dive into work to debate the ongoing controversy surrounding Likud MK Oren Hazan, who faces mounting allegations of criminal wrongdoing, including charges of supplying drugs and prostitutes to visitors at a casino he managed in Bulgaria, and sexually harassing former female employees at a bar he owned in Tel Aviv before taking office. IBA's Eli Wogelinter asked Lahav Harakov, Knesset reporter for the Jerusalem Post, how the Hazan affair is being covered in the media. We'll try to get that to you later. While the charges against Likud MK Oren Hazan are still under investigation, the allegations against him are a great cause for embarrassment. IBA's Eli Wogelinter asked Rabbi Dov Lipman how it makes him feel as a former MK looking at it from the outside.
We in the media, we're not judges, and we don't have proof that he's guilty yet, and so I want to make that totally clear that these are allegations. But the allegations are very serious, and they are being looked into. The original allegations of pimping and of providing drugs to Israeli tourists when he was working in a casino in Bulgaria, it would have been more difficult to open an investigation because those things happen abroad, although not totally impossible. And at first it really seemed like he was going to be in the Knesset for a full term and he was going to be paid to do very little while the rest of the Knesset members made him a pariah. But now the allegations have come up that happened in Israel. Last night Channel 10 reported that he allegedly sexually harassed his employees when he owned a bar in Tel Aviv. And so that's something that he could be investigated for, although first you have to remove his parliamentary immunity. But he could be investigated for that. But also, as of this morning, Attorney General Yehuda Weinstein decided to continue an ongoing investigation of Hazan for attacking the mayor of Ariel several years ago. The investigation was ongoing, and then it stopped when he was elected for Knesset because it needed special permission from the Attorney General to continue. And this morning, Weinstein gave that permission. So there are a lot of things going on with Hazan, a lot of different accusations, and we'll have to see what happens.
And from the Likud's perspective, what can they do? They seem to be caught between a rock and a hard place, their own member.
Well, it seems that the major activists in Likud, the members of the Central Committee, are supporting Hazan at the moment and saying that this is a media campaign against him. And the party, I think, is being cautious, including the Prime Minister, who hasn't said anything publicly, and a lot of the top ministers. They're being cautious, I think, because they don't want to, prosecute someone before any investigation has happened. But on the other hand, everybody is clearly taking a step back and not cooperating with him as much as they used to. And so I do think that he's just going to be a background figure in the Knesset, someone who's not able to be that active and not able to get that much done, even while the investigation is ongoing.
And of course, I suppose there's no possibility that he would resign on his own, correct?
He hasn't made any indication that he plans to resign or that he himself plans to take a step back from activities in the Knesset. He says that he is completely innocent, and in fact he plans to sue Channel 2 and the reporter who reported on his alleged activities in Bulgaria.
And now we hear the interview with Rabbi Dov Lipman.
I care very deeply about the institution of the Knesset, and it saddens me to see what this one individual is doing to this institution. And it's not just about all the sensational stories of what happened in Bulgaria, and now we're hearing about bars in Tel Aviv. Right behind me is a Foreign Affairs and Defense Committee, where you can see that they have a booth for people to put their phones in before they go in, because there's an issue of trust and sensitive information. Here's a person who we know 100% lied to us. He promised that he was going to take a polygraph regarding whatever happened in Bulgaria, and now he reneged on that. How can we live with the reality that someone sitting in that committee with all of that information about all of our security and our defense is someone who is an established liar, who has lied to us as a people? It's a sad situation. The Knesset really has no method to oust him from the Knesset. They can strip him of responsibilities. I hope they do so, and I hope that all citizens of Israel learn from the situation and are careful about who they choose for the Knesset.
So you're saying that no matter what he's done, he's allowed to stay in the Knesset?
You know, if there are criminal actions against him, then it's a whole different realm. It's outside the Knesset, now it's in the authorities. But within the Knesset, there's an ethics committee which can sanction him. He can't serve as the chairman of the plenum. He can't serve in certain committees, but he's always allowed to vote. There's an idea of democracy. People voted him into the Knesset. He's always allowed to have a say in terms of any laws and process in the Knesset, and that's why in a democratic society, we should be careful about who we choose, because once they're in, they're in.
And how embarrassing is this to the international community that's reading these headlines here in Israel?
The international media is having a field day with this. They're having a festival, a holiday, because they can point to this kind of activity within the Knesset of Israel, and that's the greatest shame. We should be portraying as a light unto the nations the greatest morality, the highest level of character, and unfortunately, that's not what's going outward. What I do hope is that we can show the world that we do have standards and we do take action. We certainly have done that in terms of a president sitting in jail, in terms of a prime minister who's going to sit in jail. While on the one hand that's sad, there's also a sense of pride that no one is beyond the law, and I certainly hope that our reaction to what's happening with Member Knesset Chazan will at least show the world that we don't tolerate this kind of behavior.
The global refugee crisis is an explosion of human suffering whose causes the international community refuses to confront. This, according to Hollywood actress and director Angelina Jolie, who serves as a United Nations Special Envoy for Refugees and was speaking at a news conference on World Refugee Day in southeastern Turkey, home to Syrians and Iraqis displaced by the war.
A refugee crisis, but a crisis of global security and governance that is manifesting itself in a world refugee crisis that is the worst ever recorded. This is a time, we are living at a time of mass displacement. My first message is that it is due time for people to respect the plight of refugees and to see their value. We must protect them and invest in them. They are not a problem, they are a part of the solution to this global crisis. They are the potential for the rebuilding and restabilization of countries. And second, even more than this, I plead to the international community and leaders of the world to recognize what this moment in mass displacement means. This is not just another day. This World Refugee Day marks some frightening truths about our inability to manage international crises, about our inability to broker peace and find lasting solutions.
Turning to sports, and Israeli athletes have won 2 more medals at the Baku 2015 Euro Games, currently taking place in Azerbaijan. The national gymnastics squad won the bronze medal in the group ribbon final, and Israel's own Netta Rivkin also brought home the bronze, coming in 3rd place in the individual hoop exercises. Taking a look now at local finance, and with no foreign currency trading on Sundays, the shekel remains the same, while share prices on the Tel Aviv Stock Exchange started off the trading this week in the plus column. Here's a look at the afternoon numbers. Turning to the weather on this first day of summer, and the IBA weather team says it will be partly cloudy and fair skies tomorrow, and that temperatures will rise a little. Here's a look at the forecasted highs and lows at home and abroad for the next 24 hours. That's all for our broadcast today. Please join us again tomorrow at the same time and the same channel when Aaron Viner will bring you the news from Israel. Until then, I'm Aryeh O'Sullivan wishing you a good evening and shalom from Jerusalem.